Now, if you remember when we talked about the purpose of the brace it keeps the entire assembly in a real residential construction, keeps the entire assembly from shifting. These are critical, especially in places that have a lot of seismic activity like in California. So you're going to ask, how do I install this brace, Mr. Berger? Well, there's two ways that this brace can be installed. And depending upon what you're comfortable with, I'll accept either way. If you want to practice the way that this is done in real residential construction, you'll want to take that mitered brace, set your top plate and your cap together, and use one of the smaller pieces for the front wall right now to mimic the extension to those front walls, or back walls in this case, and set your brace in place so that the mitered cut is parallel and flush with your sill plate right down here. When you do that, back it up so that it just contacts the mimicked cap plate that is aligned with the edge of the wall. Make sure that you don't go in either direction too far. Now, again, two different methods to use here. If you want to actually practice the method that's used in residential construction, you need to bury this brace in the wall. So what you'll do is with pressure on the wall, and after making sure that the wall is in fact 90 degrees, it's perpendicular, check it with with the base that I've built you. Go ahead and scribe the lines where this wood is crossing each of the studs, the sill plate, the cap, and the top. Where these lines exist now, you're going to have to take your handsaw and cut down 3/4 of an inch so that it buries this entire piece. Now, the only way you're going to be able to get that out effectively is if you actually cross-cut on the studs, the sill plate, the top, and the cap, and then you'll use a cross fashion to remove that material. Now again, at home, without things like chisels or other tools, I know this would be pretty difficult. If you feel confident and you have the tools at home to do this type of work, go ahead and give it a try. If not, especially considering the actual expectations of this doghouse, I'll be perfectly comfortable with accepting the brace being nailed directly on top of the wall. Remember, this is the inside of the doghouse, though. Now, before I'm going to nail something like that in place, I'm going to double check to make sure that the wall is in fact square and it hasn't turned into a parallelogram yet, which if I use this base, it fills the entire space, which means it's not going to be able to shift in one direction or the other. So I know it's pretty well squared up. The only thing I need to be concerned with is where the top intersects with that extended cap and where the bottom intersects with the sill plate. I got to make sure that those are aligned. Now, if you went to go use the framing nails and you put the framing nails through this, if you're very careful, you should be able to get through without breaking through the other side. But remember what I told you when you picked your materials up or when they were dropped off. You can also use the shorter roofing nails. Now notice the shorter roofing nails will only just barely get into this material. So if you honestly think that your dog is going to be a little bit rougher than the average dog, you'll want to use the full-length nails. If you got a really small dog or you're really not sure where this thing is going to get used, you can use the shorter nails for now. I'll demonstrate with the longer nails. Start by trying to make sure that you're in the center of your sill plate and at least a 1/2 inch in from the edge of the brace. Doesn't come through. Double check to make sure that you have your spacing set correct at the top. Now, technically, this assembly can still shift quite a bit up until the point that I now connect the brace to one of the studs. Now, if I stand this up, it's got a lot of rigidity because I now have officially triangulated the assembly.